Hey, good evening, everybody. We welcome you once again to another night, another Wednesday night. And man, shout out to all of those couples. I don't have the final number. I don't remember what it was, but shout out to all the couples last week that renewed their vows. Some of you all were in the house, some of you all were in your car, some of you all were at home. But shout out to love. And man, I pray God's richest blessings on all of the couples that renewed their vows. Man, and what a time we had at that reception. Man, y'all turned up, man. That was fun. And so we thank God for your presence and participation last weekend for I Still Do for the vow renewal. It was a great time. And I believe God is going to do something special in your marriage. We welcome everyone here once again tonight. Those of you that are just getting off the prayer line, those of you that have come tonight to enjoy, peek in, listen in, participate in the conversation. I've got some great people tonight, I'm telling you. So do me one quick favor, share this stream, but also like text 3 people, tell them hurry up. If you got a skateboard, get on your bike, swim, stroll, dance. I was going to say some other things, but that might be for 40 and over. So, man, whatever you need to do, pull up to this broadcast because it's going to be a phenomenal evening. Just 1 hour. We're going to be talking about some things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I want to let you know about this coming week. This coming Sabbath is at Brinklow Education Day. We are celebrating education, and because of that, we have the grand privilege of having the Pine Forge Academy students with us. And I need you to be there at 10:45. Nah, y'all be coming late. Come at 10:30. At 10:50, the Creative Arts Drama Ministries will present something powerful in the form of dramatic presentation. You don't want to miss it. Bring a friend, bring a relative, bring your enemy. And after the dramatic presentation, they might be your friend. But come one, come all, as they kick it off at 10:50 before we begin our worship experience. And then during our worship experience, the Pine Forge Academy Choir will be in attendance with us. I'm telling y'all, I mean, to hear these young people sing like that, I've heard them, but I want you to hear them and experience what God is doing in their life. And last but not least, we'll have our own G.E. Peters students and faculty with us on this Sabbath. It's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a great worship experience this coming week. And so don't forget to be there. Also, the following week, May 13th, we've got our Women's Day celebration, her story for his glory with elder speaker Ashley Solomons from the Ephesus Seventh-day Adventist Church in Richmond, Virginia. She will be with us. And so we're going to have a phenomenal time. We're going to have a phenomenal month. I'm telling you, the month of May is going to be something powerful. May, if you did not know, I believe it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So text somebody, call somebody, check on somebody, let them know that they are loved. Well, tonight, we want to welcome you. What's going on, Brother Ernest? Brian, I see you all the way from Oregon. Listen, man, I know you might not be in the house, but you there in spirit, man. And God bless and keep you real good all the way from Oregon. You always pull up every week, man. So it's always a pleasure and privilege to see you. Because it's Education Day this Sabbath, I thought we would do something tonight and actually talk to some educators in our Wednesday night conversation. We've been in this series called The People. And so the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with dating. We've been dealing with marriage and relationships. And tonight, we're going to talk about people that are really precious to us. And that's our kids. That's our babies. That's the emerging or the next generation. We're going to talk about them. And I'm not here myself to do it. I've got some ladies. I was about to sing Beyonce, all the single ladies, but then y'all would judge me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to forget. So all my ladies, I got my lady educators with me tonight. And I first have with me Mrs. Lakeisha Dickerson, all the way from George E. Peters School. She's coming all the way from Hyattsville, Maryland. I've got Miss Lakeisha Dixon with us tonight. She is a history and ELA teacher for our middle school students. What's going on, Miss Dickerson?
Hey, Pastor. How are you?
How you feel?
I'm feeling good. I got my G.E. Peters student right here.
I don't see the G.E. Peters shirt. Listen, I just want to say thank you for rocking with us tonight because it's 8 o'clock and you have just finished a long day of teaching.
Say it again.
What's going on, Vernon Murphy? You just finished a long day, and we're going to talk about that long day in our conversation tonight. So thank you for real, for being with us tonight. And
Absolutely.
then we have, y'all may not know her as this, but I call her your twin, your sidekick, because y'all just be doing it. Yeah, if anything needs to get done, put it in the hands of Miss Dickerson and my other homie, all the way from Hyattsville, Maryland. That's a long distance from wherever you're at, but all the way from Hyattsville, Maryland, we've got Miss Jasmine King rocking with us tonight. She is the mathematics and Bible teacher for our middle school students there at G. Peters. Y'all see, she trying to be fancy tonight. She got math all behind her, and I feel like you coming. I feel like you coming for me, Miss King, because I was never a good math student. Shout out. Listen, put in the chat. Do you like math or not? That's about to be the first question.
Don't get me started, Pastor Washington. Please don't get me started with this.
I'm like, dang, does 1 + 1 really equal 2? Like, let's think about this. Let's philosophize. That's not even a word, but I made it up. Do you like math? Y'all like math, or y'all just feel like y'all like?
Y'all gonna get Miss King hot today.
Everybody better say yes.
Ain't nobody said yes in this chat yet. So listen, let's slide over to the other thing Miss King teaches. Oh, somebody said they loved it.
Yes.
Brother Vernon Murphy said he loved it. Brother Vernon Murphy, Lord bless and keep you.
Brother Vernon.
Okay. Let me move to something else before I get in my feelings. Listen, I'm excited. Like, I'm geeked tonight. Anytime I talk to this young lady, I've known this young lady since I was 13 years old. We graduated 8th grade together, and we've got Miss Mache Walden all the way from Washington, D.C. She's a guidance counselor for Johnson Middle School. What's going on, Miss Walden?
Hey, Noah. I'm so excited to be here. I'm well. Tired, like all the rest of the teachers, educators on this call.
All these teachers coming on here looking like, man, I need me a 5-hour energy, some coffee, some something, because I've been dealing with kids all day. But let me ask you a question. Since Miss King did you like math in middle school?
Oh, no. You talking about no.
When you were in middle school, did you like math?
Are you talking to, oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I was not a math person. I was not a math person.
Keep you. Thank you. So I got two. I got some company. Miss Dickerson, did you like math though? And don't be saying it just because Miss.
No, I did like math.
Y'all pray for her. I think
I like English better though. But we
had communion last week, but maybe we need to do it again because
there's no such thing as a math person.
Here we go. All right, listen. And then my last sister from another mister, she was so encouraging to me when I was finishing up my doctorate, and now she helps so many people finish up theirs. In about 3 more days, y'all better start calling Miss Lakeisha Dickerson, Dr. Dickerson, because she on her way. Probably about 3.5 more days she'll be done because she a whole lot smarter than me. So I've got my sister, Doc Kesslin Braid Stennis, is with us tonight, man.
Ask me the question. Do I like math? Ask me the question.
Hey, do you like math?
I love math. I love math until I got to cosine and sine and all of that trigonometry, calculus stuff.
Yeah, it's time to go now. Yeah, man. You all right? So let's listen. I don't want to waste any time. I want to get into it, and I want everybody to join in this conversation. And so let me start off with this. Everybody got to get in on this. What in the world, what was it that made you go into education? What was it? I see Doc got the robe in the back and she's stunting her robe. You know what I'm saying? What was it that made you go into education?
An opportunity for a job.
That's all it was?
Yes, at the time. At the time.
Okay.
I never intended to be a college professor. I have a social work background. Never intended to be a college professor. Someone said, we have an opening. We think you'd be a great teacher. Have you ever thought about it? And I was like, well, not really. But after my first semester,
you loved it.
Listen, all in. Love it. Love it. At the higher education level, I get an opportunity. So I've been teaching undergrad most of my career, some grad, and now I do doctoral coaching. I love the idea of people developing their mind for action. For me, the end result is action. It's activism. It's changing the world.
Okay.
And education is the medium to do that. So if I can participate in that, help people grow and develop so that they can impact the world. I'm all in.
You get into another conversation.
Sorry.
So you got into it because of an opportunity. All right.
That's what I got into it. Yes.
All right. Somebody else. Why you getting an education?
So I have an answer that is probably not typical. I was a 6-year senior.
Ms. Dickerson, I don't know if it's a background, but something else is bleeding through. We got you now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say I was a 6-year senior in college. And yes, I said 6-year senior. And I found myself pregnant. And I was supposed to go to law school. I had already taken the LSAT.
Really?
I was looking at law schools, and I had a degree in English, or I was graduating that next year with a degree in English. And I said, what am I going to do? I have a baby. I have to support myself. And it was around the time when, I don't know if you guys remember, when that, what was her name? Michelle
Obama?
Reed? No, Michelle Reed in D.C. was.
Yes. Miss Walden knows that name very well.
These teachers, in other jobs, like you could turn over and become an educator and work in DC. So I literally sent out my resume to every high school and middle school in DC looking for a job because I had a baby coming and I had to support myself. I got hired at Southeast Academy of Scholastic Excellence to teach 5th grade.
Wow.
I didn't know what a lesson plan was. I knew I liked kids, but that was it. And my first year was really rough, but I know that I kept telling myself, this doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun. Like I love it. I love it. And then from that point on, I decided to go back to school and study education, started working at GE Peters, and I haven't looked back.
And now you ought to get your doctorate in it.
Hopefully.
Ain't no hopefully. See, go talk to Dr. Stennis. We rebuke. She rebuked.
No, that's not playing. Not what you saying. Hopefully, you better come through.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be Dr. Dickerson.
I will be.
Yeah,
Miss King, Miss Walden, talk to me.
So I always knew I wanted to work with kids. I just didn't know in what capacity growing up. Like similar to Dickerson, I was on a law path, right? And in between, undergrad and grad, like I took a job at the DC court system, and seeing kids that look like me and having to play a part in locking them up or putting them in behind bars, like I knew didn't want to do that. So then I enrolled at Trinity in their counseling program, and again, haven't looked back. I've been in DC public schools for 15 years, same school as a school counselor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, when I was little, the first thing I ever wanted to be was a teacher.
Really?
Yeah. I've always loved working with kids. I was that student when I was in 7th and 8th grade. My lunch and recess time was spent in the 1st grade classroom with the teacher, helping out the kids, hanging out with them, reading to them, helping them with their work. My mother is
you did during recess?
Yeah, during my lunch and recess when I was in 7th and 8th grade. Can you imagine y'all middle schoolers doing that now?
No, I can't imagine that. Me and Miss Walden was not doing that for recess. I'll tell you that.
My favorite uncle was an ophthalmologist. My mom is a retired nurse practitioner. And, I love science and I love medicine too. So that was my mindset that afterwards, I switched to wanting to go into medicine. I went to at the time, it was the third best high school in New York City, Brooklyn Tech. I majored. We had majors in high school. I was a pre-med major. I came down here. I went to CUC for college. I was a bio major, chem minor.
Wow.
One day I woke up my spring semester of my junior year and something said, Jasmine, go change your major to education. And I went to the registrar's office, changed my major to education, and never looked back.
Your junior year?
Spring semester of my junior year.
Wow. So I would argue that every discipline has its I guess successes or pros, but as well as challenges. So tell me what you like most and what you like least about teaching or the educational process. What do you like most? What do you like least?
I like most when the kids come back and you see the seeds that you planted actually growing, right? Because you necessarily don't see why they're there. But when they come back years later, you're like, wow, you actually listen. So I love that. And working in DC, the politics, absolutely dislike the politics of education. And that's what we deal with, especially in DC public schools.
You deal with that probably more than people realize.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So we got to lean. I got to circle back to that because most people don't realize Miss King and Miss Dickerson, they're in private school. The good doctor, you're in public college, and so you may lean in, but most people probably don't know a lot of politics that are involved in what you do. So we got to come back to that. So anybody else, what do you really love and what you're like, man, I'm about to go postal or whatever you say. What do you like least? What do you like most?
I really love teaching. Like, I love it. I love teaching math. I love working with the students. I love getting to know the kids. I love getting to know them as individuals, the individual personalities. And just trying to have a positive influence on them. I love, when they have that moment when they realize they can do something, when they're actually learning, when they feel smart, when they feel accomplished. What I like the least, I would have to say, to be honest, is the lack of respect for educators and for what we do.
Well, okay, hold on. Pause. Pause. What do you mean by that? Now, I will say this. So my mom and my sister are both educators. My mom was a DC public school teacher. She's about to retire from PG County. This is her last year. My sister has been a middle school math and Bible teacher as well at F.H. Jenkins, Adventist private school in Nashville for a number of years. And so both of them, swim on in education. And, we pay guys millions of dollars to run up a field, throw a ball in the hoop, but we can't give teachers $5. So when you say what bothers you is the lack of respect that a lot of teachers and educators get, you mean specifically what?
I mean, specifically respecting our knowledge and our craft.
Wow.
I mean, you wouldn't question a doctor when a doctor gives you, tells you to take some medicine. And, you come back to the doctor a week later. Hey, doc, I'm still sick. Well, did you take their medicine? And you say no. Doctor's like, I told you what to do to be successful, to help you. You're not fighting the doctor on that, Yeah. Pay is one, of course.
Sure.
Just the way society in general, us who have deep ties for education, who value the educational system, Doctor, you talked about, your mom and your sister. So you You know the education system, you're in it. But
and I teach too. I'm an adjunct in college as well. So
well, there we go. So you're part of the battle. You're on that field too.
Yeah.
But just in general, I mean, I just there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Dickerson, Doc, talk to me. What you like least? Come on, y'all. Just jump in. The water's good. Just jump in.
You
Whatever
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have to agree with Mrs. King. There's such a lack of respect for educators, and I feel like everybody thinks they can do it. Like it's not a specialized skill to be a teacher.
Like pastoring.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people say I could be a pastor.
Yeah, okay. They won't say it, but okay, that's another discussion. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I mean, even in my own home, I remember talking to my daughter, Milan, and we were talking about like leaving a legacy. And she was like, I want to one day be a living legend. And I said, I do too. I would love to be a living legend one day. And she was like, well, what would you get a living legend award for? I said, I don't know, like teaching. And she said, they don't give living legend awards to teachers. Wow. And I said, why would you think that? She was like, I mean, you guys do good work, but it's not something that people look up to. And that's my child who sees how much work.
She's like, it's good, but it ain't that good.
It's not something that the community values, although they couldn't do anything without it. And that we don't hold up. And I think that's probably why we get paid what we do, is because it's not, people don't respect
valued.
It.
Absolutely.
It's not valued. Everybody wants their child to be a doctor, a lawyer. In my classroom the other day, one of the kids was saying, who's smarter, a teacher or a doctor? And I was trying to explain to them, smartness doesn't go with careers. But then someone said in the classroom, he said, well, you wouldn't have a doctor without a teacher. And I was like, well, all right. I said, so either way, it's not, we look for doctors, lawyers, engineers, because there are financial gains with those jobs. Mm-hmm. This job is purely for the love, because it ain't about the money. And like I said, I would teach for free. Like, that's how much I love it. Wow. I love this week when the kids learn something that they didn't know before, when they do something that they didn't think they could do before, and now they believe in themselves. You can't pay for that. Like, that's not anything you could replicate with money. It can't happen. And so that is what makes it worth it.
It's all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So Ernest Bryan said he didn't like the students' attitude of entitlement. That's what he didn't like, the students' attitude of entitlement. Do y'all experience that?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. He said when I was teaching at the college, I had students that wanted to know in advance what they got exact questions on the exams would be. I told them that spoon feeding was for their parents' job. He on one tonight. So
Lord.
Go ahead, Doc, and then I'll pivot in terms of what you like most and least.
I love the energy of being in the classroom. It's hard to explain. I feel like I can be my full self in the front of a classroom with students who can be their full selves, right? I listen, I'm one of them crazy kind of college professors. I'm like, Lord, it's all theatrics. You didn't do what we just went over. Like, I'm laying on the floor across the table. I'm one of them, like, I can just be my full self in the classroom. Really? Yes. I love it, especially if it's an 8 o'clock in the morning class and the students asleep. Oh man, I'm coming alive.
Yeah.
What I don't like now, they may not say this. What I don't like is grading papers.
Hallelujah.
For the birds.
Hey, let me tell you something.
I never have to grade a paper.
Here's the remedy, though.
It's all right with me. Don't give.
I remember when I first started teaching in college. In college, I was like, man, these I'm trying to watch a game or something, Michelle, and I'm like, hey, I gotta grade these papers. And then it dawned on me, hey, if I ain't,
If you don't
I just
give
don't give out the
assignments.
work, and I won't have nothing to grade. But I'm gonna tell you, I think for me too, I would side more with Miss Walden in terms of, man, I just love because when you're in the trenches, you feel like sometimes what you're doing is not making a difference. You're like, man, I'm going over this thing, bam, 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 and they're not getting it. And then years later, you see them, and it's like, you was listening. So, like, literally an hour ago, I was almost in tears. My son texted me. My son's at a boarding school, Palm Forge Academy, that'll be with us on Sabbath. So he texted me. He was like, Dad, I just finished preaching in prayer meeting tonight. So I'm just like, dude, I mean, he told me he was preaching sometime this semester, but he don't ever tell me when. And so then he goes, don't laugh, y'all. Then he says, and Dad, I started banging on the desk like you do when you preach. I said, son, you was feeling that thing? And so it's like you go through stuff and you're like, man, do people get it? But when they respond and you see the maturity come out of them based on what you poured into them, you're like, man, maybe I am doing things worthwhile. And so based on that, I want to segue into a question that I didn't have down, but something someone said triggered it for me. How has COVID changed teaching?
COVID flipped for us, those of us in higher ed, and everybody really. COVID flipped everything around. We had to learn what we could do a different way. We had to use different skills. We had to integrate technology. We had to make sure that the students had technology to integrate, right? I personally believe that COVID, I was telling my oldest daughter, my second oldest daughter, the other day, that COVID set a new benchmark for education. You all know my child. She was so stressed about doing well on these standardized tests. I mean, stressed out. And I had to say, It's okay. I know you want to do well, and your teachers know you want to do well. The entire world has been impacted by COVID. So the standard has changed. We want you to do your very best, but everybody's trying to recalibrate what the expectations for scores are, because we have all been impacted. We've all been, I don't even want to say set back, but we are finding a new standard, a new expectation. And that's okay. It's not just you, child, or my college students. It's everybody around the world.
Yeah.
Everybody around the world has been impacted by COVID.
Do you think we're still, and I don't know if somebody's going to get this, you think we're still coming out of it? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think we are coming out of it academically. I think we're trying to set a new pace. I think emotionally, our kids are trying to recalibrate. My college students, yes, we are still coming out.
Okay.
Listen, we will be impacted by COVID in education for the next 10 years.
Yes. Yes.
It shaped us for 3 years. So yeah, we're gonna feel it.
Okay.
But the entire world will feel it, not just our kids.
Right.
Now, children of color will feel it differently.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
Okay.
I'm coming to that.
Mute. Okay.
I'm coming to that. Somebody else. How has COVID changed education?
I mean, so coming from the inner city, like I'm in Southeast Ward 8, and being away from my kids for 18 months, and I'm speaking on mental health side because that's where my background is from. But being away from them from 18 months, coming back with zero coping skills, zero supervision for 18 months, zero parent guidance, nothing. And for us to come back just throwing in and saying, you guys need to read on the 6th grade level when they haven't been in school since 3rd grade and they were already reading at a pre-K level. I mean, we were doing catch up. And we're still doing catch up. We're going to be doing catch up, like Dr. Kessler said, for the next 10 years. Because for 18 months, a lot of our kids and kids of color did not have the supervision, the proper technology. No one was looking out for them for 18 months.
Did you feel pressure?
Coming back into
school? Like, did you
Absolutely.
feel pressure from your superiors? And you know, like when they say, hey, listen, in 3 months or whatever, you got to, we need to be here.
Oh,
Were
absolutely.
you feeling that?
Absolutely. We did park last year. Why did we do park? Our kids been out for 18. That's our standardized test. Park. That's our standardized test.
Oh, okay.
Like, why did we do standardized testing last year? Our kids been out for 18 months. So it was a pressure to take the test, and it counted towards the schools. So teachers were teaching for the test and actually teaching the kids where they are. And kids just weren't getting it.
Wow. Come on, G. Peters teachers.
And then they feel like failures when they don't meet the standard.
Oh, and not only the kids.
Hey, listen, we had, I don't know if y'all remember this back in the day. We had a test called ITBS test.
Yep.
And this was before COVID. And so I still wasn't. I could care less. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to put that in there. So you were saying what, Ms. Walden?
Sorry.
I thought you were about to say something. My bad.
Yeah, no, I was done. I was just saying, like, in a whole, like, our kids are struggling educationally and with their mental health.
Okay. We coming back to that too. Come on, G. Peters, teachers.
I was going to say, I feel a little different than maybe everybody else does. I think definitely mental health wise and just our kids, what I saw a lot is our kids now think that they're like little adults because they've kind of been on their own for so long. And it's really hard for them to take instruction. It's hard for them to, just follow directions because they've been on their own for 3 years. But I do think that we're resilient people, and that a lot of times what I hear is, I'm not saying it's an excuse, it's a reason, but I feel like it's time for us to kind of ante up. Like, yes, we've been in the trenches. I have seen my class that I have right now make huge comebacks. I mean, and it was right after COVID, it was bad. Like, kids not remembering how to even read a chapter without falling asleep, or not being able, their attention span was gone. It was bad. But this year, I can definitely say academically, I feel like we're making a comeback. And I don't want, what I'm hearing a lot this year is a lot of people saying, mental health crisis is the biggest thing. And I absolutely think that's true. However, our kids still need to get into good schools. They still need to go to college. They still need to pass these exams. So I can't just sit by and say, yes, COVID was bad, so I'm going to give you a pass these next 3 years. I can't do that because I have a responsibility to prepare them for high school. And I can say that now this year, having just finished taking the standardized test, having been so proud of how much gain my kids have had, just academically and coming out of COVID. I'm really, really proud of that. And I think it's because we're resilient people. We're able.
But let me ask you an honest question to that.
Yes.
Let me ask you an honest question.
Yes.
I don't know if this is too honest, but, and maybe this is one for all educators, so that I don't feel like I'm coming from Ms. Dickerson.
He gonna come from me. Go ahead. It's okay.
Do we? And I'm saying this as an educator too, because I have a philosophy of education, and here's my philosophy of education. My philosophy of education is the goal is to learn, right? And so if you are so scared about passing a class, or if you're so scared that you're not going to get an A, if the goal is to just get an A and you're scared to do that, then education stops. You're not in there to learn. You're just in there to get whatever, but you haven't learned. So, I guess my question is, because I've given out tests that I thought were easy. I'm talking about college now. I've given out tests that I thought was easy, and I get them back and I see, I'm like, are you serious? Y'all? And so I take that, I've taken it, I don't anymore, as a reflection of how good I am as a teacher. And if they don't do well, man, so I guess to that, how do we balance then what we need to do with what they've been through? How do we balance that in education?
So I will say this, and I don't want to take over people's talking, but it is important for teachers to figure out a way to engage their kids. And you can ask any of my students, I tell them, I'll give you an A. The most important thing for me is that did you learn what we set out for you to learn? Like, that's the most important thing. And so teachers have a responsibility to figure out what your kids' currency is and engage them, tie it to rigor, engage them, but push them. Like, you have to. COVID was bad. Yes, we have some, there's some loneliness, there's depression, there's all of those things that we have to deal with. Teachers have to deal with it. Teachers were killing themselves. Teachers were jumping out of it. We're going crazy, but I still need a paycheck. I still got to work. I still got kids to raise. So I think that we have to be careful not to use COVID as an excuse for not showing up.
Okay.
And doing what we have to do.
I got you.
I completely agree with Ms. Dickerson. I do feel like, yes, COVID was crazy. However, I will say I think there were some positives to the change that COVID had on education. For instance, when we had Zoom, when we had that whole year on Zoom, I hated teaching online because
Really?
teaching a whole class, I hated teaching online because it was very difficult to hold the students accountable. I had students who would literally tell me, I would type them in the chat, they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was watching Family Reunion on Netflix. Like just straight up. What can I do? I can't run to their house and turn off the TV. So yes, that was difficult, but one of the blessings that I had that how COVID changed teaching was being on the Zoom. I was able to work with students one-on-one very effectively. After school tutoring, I would be online.
My son was a recipient of it.
Yes. I would be online with students one-on-one after class. I mean, and because it was online, because it was virtual, it was quick. It was easy. It was very engaging, but the whole class dynamic was hard.
Sure.
But just that being able to reach people via Zoom. I hate meetings, but to be able to be in a meeting via Zoom and things in this forum. But I do agree with Ms. Dickerson when she was saying we can't just wallow. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it has changed all of us, but we have to get up and start doing something to change that. We have to put in work to progress. No one's going to progress by doing nothing.
So I'm gonna ask a question to that too, but I wanna read what Miss Tanya Frett said. She said her child said he didn't want to be a teacher because they always say they're broke. I encourage you all to equally speak to the kids about the joys of teaching. Passion and love for what you do is very important in the career. So many people are making a lot of money and are miserable. That is so true. It's important that we all provide a realistic narrative. I love teachers and our kids love their teachers. We should never have to teach for free. We see and appreciate you. I don't think this is Teachers Appreciation Week, month, or whatever, but I must say, man, I appreciate you guys are the real MVPs. And man, I listen.
It actually is this month.
It's next week. It's next week. It's next week.
Look at this. We got Education Day this weekend. We got Education Night tonight. So let me say on behalf of all the people, the peeps and peepettes in the world, those that have children, thank you, teachers, for what you do. It's often a thankless job, but we appreciate you guys. Real talk. Even the kids that don't appreciate you now, I promise they appreciate you later. I'll give this quick story and then I'll move on. So when I was in high school, I had typing class. I'll never shall forget. 10th grade typing class. And our teacher, She didn't care if we talked in class. She didn't care if we ate. She didn't care if we made up dumb songs. She didn't care what we did as long as on Thursday at 3 o'clock, our typing work was turned in. So we got accustomed to, playing around in the class right after lunch, and we were doing our thing. And then the day happened that I'll never shall forget, where she changed all of our lives in what we had grown to be comfortable in this class. Shout out to Miss Carmen Patterson. When we came back from lunch one day, there were stickers on the keyboards. And she kept telling us, I'm going to get you to a point where you're not looking down at the keyboard, but you're looking at the work so that you can type. And we was like, all right, whatever, man. This is a flyby class, whatever the case may be. We came back and all of the letters were covered so that we had to look at the guide for hand placement. And we were, I can't say it because this is church and we online. We were highly upset. We were like, Miss Pat, man, you are the worst. Fast forward, years later, Dr. Kessler, I'm working on my dissertation and I'm typing, and it was literally 4 o'clock in the morning, and it dawned on me, oh, snap. I can type this stuff out quick and get to bed because of what she did for me in 10th grade. I didn't like it at the time, but I was so thankful for it later that the next morning I literally reached out to her and said, Miss Pat, thank you so much. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, you remember that day when we all was about to go in on you? We didn't like it then, but thank God for it now. And, a lot of times you don't see what you're doing, but man, I'm telling you, it's a blessing later. So based on what you just said, I want to ease into another question, man. Let me see. Should we go light or heavy? I'll let y'all pick. Should we go light or heavy?
Can I add one thing to the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
There is balance. And I think you have to know, as a parent, you have to know your child. And as a teacher, you have to know your kids. Some kids can deal with that push and not break. We can bend, but not break. Some kids can't deal.
You push them, they gonna break.
You gotta push them, but you can't. You have to gauge how hard and how far you push them, because they're traumatized, and trauma is real. So I thank God for these two wonderful teachers, because they really work hard to strike the balance, and they really do push our kids. And GE Peters kids are amazing.
Yeah.
But I did need to. It's Mental Health Month, and I'm a mental health practitioner, so
yeah.
There's a balance. There's a balance in that.
So based on that, then I'm gonna go to this question. I was gonna go to something else, but you said it, so I'm gonna go here. How do you encourage kids who have challenges? How do you encourage them through the learning process? And let me kind of give context to what I mean by challenges. So my mom used to teach for a long time in DC, Miss Walden. She used to teach in special ed. And the lady's name is slipping me, but she made a quote that I thought was so dope. She said, we have termed classroom special ed, which have really just been holding cells until they become adults to take them off to prison. Because what she was finding, my mom now, is that in special ed, it wasn't that a lot of these kids could not learn. It was that their domestic situation was so difficult that when they got in the classroom, they literally could not take in any more information based on the hell that they were experiencing at home. So again, and I'm here today because a couple of professors and teachers, etc., pushed me. But I guess my question is, man, how do we encourage kids? How do we literally encourage them to keep pushing, to keep moving when they come to the education process with challenges, whether it be domestic or, educationally, et cetera, et cetera? How do we do that?
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but Pastor Washington, what you're saying is true. But I mean, think back to when we were growing up. Things are different, yes, but we had a lot of issues as well. We had parents getting divorced. We had things happening. I agree that, you know, it's important that we allow students to talk things through. So I was not a big proponent of this, of what I'm about to say.
Okay.
This year, I instituted what we call like circle time, where I allow all of my students at the end of the day to talk through whatever they're feeling. If there's an issue in the class,
you do it every day.
So it used to be every day, but now we do it whenever we have time at the end of the day. And they started looking for, I thought I did it because I wanted to kind of help behaviors. It did not help behaviors at all.
I was about to say, I was going to tell you, I'll come to circle time on Thursday, but you said it ain't.
That would be nice. It did not help behaviors, but what it did help was relationships. Whenever there were issues, I would see kids, because I mean, the things that I see our kids going through, we went through it when we were growing up as well.
That's true.
It's just a little different now because everything is exacerbated with the internet, with the, you know,
social media,
access to social media. But talking through what they are going through, if they have, you know, conflict with their friends in the classroom, allowing anybody who wants to bring it up, and then we don't leave till it's dealt with.
Wow.
For me, it's that difficult time of the year, right? We're at that time of the year where we're having those difficult conversations about summer school. Everyone hates summer school, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually had a kid who has an IEP in my office today, and explaining to him that he's going to have to go to summer school because he didn't do well in his classes. And the first thing he said was, I try my best.
Wow.
And so for me, a kid with an IEP said, I tried my best. And knowing that he may not have received the supports that he needed, I'm going to do everything so that kid don't have to go to summer school now. Like you're going to have to give him a packet. You're going to have to make this kid pass now. Because for me, I know the circumstances. And again, we're going back to that politics that I mentioned in the beginning of the program. Yeah. But now it's my job as a school counselor to make sure we put everything in place for this kid to be successful. And if we didn't, that's on us.
Wow. And
we got to continue to make sure that this kid is successful.
Wow. Wow.
It's
Doc Kessler, how do you encourage those that have challenges?
I was one of those kids. I had challenges. I had a speech impediment. So crazy because now I get paid to speak, but I had a speech impediment and I had reading comprehension issues, and now I have written books. Crazy, right? But how did I get to this place? I thank you for that question. I want to just piggyback on what Ms. Dickerson said and what Ms. Walden said. Relationships are so important. Relationships are critically important. A kid may never care what you're teaching. They just want to know that you love them. And that I had college students. I was telling somebody today, I had a college student, several, who were living an alternative lifestyle because they had to pay their way through college. So they were doing what they needed to do to get through college.
Yeah.
They would come in my office and sleep. Why? Because I held them accountable in class and was like, you can't be sleeping in my class. But after class, they would come to my office and sleep.
Wow.
There were times when they would say, when you go, can I sleep under your desk on your floor?
Goodness.
Because they didn't have a place to go. But they had a relationship with me and it made them comfortable asking those tough questions and requesting those services. The other thing is resources. I went to public school, so resources were different, but I went to a speech therapist. My mother was an educator. She recognized my need. I couldn't say my brother's name is Ron. I couldn't say Ron.
Really?
I couldn't just last year when I was helping a doc student, she said, there's a connection between your hearing, your speech, and reading comprehension. I cried because that was me. but I had the resources, the speech therapist. My mother put me in those summer programs to help me with my reading, to be able to understand, comprehend what I had the resources that I needed. Unfortunately, many of our schools don't have the resources. A counselor, Miss Walden, many of our schools don't have a counselor, a nurse, a speech therapist. They don't have that. So our children who are brilliant but challenged may not have the everything that they need, but what they can have is a relationship. When the resources are not present, the relationship is that much more important.
Critical.
Sorry, I'm going on and on.
No, that's good.
Relationship and resources will make a difference for that child like me, who was challenged in school.
Wow. You got anything to add, Ms. King?
I mean, she said, I was going to say relationships is number one. Relationship is number one. The best way you can help someone get through a challenge, especially if they're having a challenge learning, is to understand what they're trying, or try as best you can to understand what they're going through.
So let me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, celebrate small victories. Like Ms. Dickerson said, we're focused on the learning, not the grade. Everyone's not going to be a straight A student. And that is okay. And that's something that I've started telling the students a lot, especially when they were having this anxiety about the map testing. I was like, it's just a test. It's just a snapshot on what you did on a certain number of questions you got in one day. Do your best. I said, does that change who you are as a person? I said, in 10 years from now, is somebody going to say, oh, Dr. King, you were 85th percentile in 8th grade. I don't want you to be my doctor. Like, I know these are things that are set up, but to help the students know that they are just more than
a percentile,
more than a percentile, more than their grade.
You know what's crazy? I always did terrible on ITBS tests, but I was on the honor roll.
Test takers.
But I was on the honor roll.
Some people aren't good test takers. My sister,
but I did terrible in that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna tell you what I did in my SATs.
Terrible test anxiety. She's a pharmacist now, but terrible test anxiety. Can't eat, can't sleep, nausea, everything.
Upset stomach.
Yep, diarrhea. She won't watch this.
So
I showed somebody my GRE test scores, and they were like,
"There's like, child, please,
you ain't going to nobody's grad school."
I think I asked this, but I don't know if we really dug into it. That I want to ask, what is your, like, personally now? What's your greatest challenge as an educator? What's something that you are challenged by when you're in the classroom, when a student comes in your office? It's like, as you guys think of that question, one of the reasons that gave me, how do you encourage students to have challenges? I remember Doc Kesslin, my first semester teaching in college, and the first day, we ain't getting in nothing. I'm just going over the syllabi and telling them this, that, what's expected of them. Young man comes to me at the end of the class. He says, hey, professor, I'm just letting you know, I'm not sure when, but in a couple of weeks, I'll be missing some days. And I said, why? He said, my brother was shot last week, shot and killed. So we getting ready for the funeral. And this is my first semester. And I'm saying to myself, hey, God, what do I need? You know what I mean? And so the Spirit told me what you just said and what Ms. Walden, you alluded to, and that is the relationship. I mean, through that encouragement, the brother finished the semester well. I remember talking to him. He said, Doc Wash, to be honest with you, 2 weeks before school started, I didn't know what I was going to be doing with my life. But my brother that got shot, he told me 2 weeks ago, he said, man, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of this neighborhood and do something with yourself. And that's why I'm here. And so it just presents challenges like, man, how do we, God, how do I serve your baby? So, man, what's your greatest challenge? What do you have difficulty doing?
So for me, and you follow me on Instagram, I just did a presentation for Office of Attorney General, City Council.
Yes.
Losing a kid is never easy. And from August 31st until now, my community has experienced 12 traumatic incidents with kids being shot, kids dying. We having to hit the ground for ducking bullets. We actually seen a person shooting outside our window.
Yeah.
So trauma and losing a kid is never easy. And you don't get used to it. And people think because my school's in Southeast, oh, that's the norm. They're used to it. No, we're not. I'm not used to it. And it's not normal. And our kids should not be used to seeing someone laying outside of the school from gunshot wounds.
That's heavy. That's
one of the biggest challenges for me. It never gets easy.
Yeah. Wow. That's heavy. Yeah.
Right. And for me, I'm a counselor, and having to do my own trauma after I experienced the trauma, you want me to go now and counsel kids when I just experienced the same trauma that they experienced. It's difficult.
And all of them coming to you wanting help.
Yeah, I'm the only counselor. Like you said, we're short counselors, so I'm the only counselor in the building.
So, and I know this ain't about DCPS, but would you say most of or not, Miss Walden, of the middle schools in DC have at least one counselor in every school?
No. So majority, yes. You have some that don't have counselors, and you have some that short social workers, and you have some that don't have psychologists. It depending on the budget, right? And
Politics.
Then people depending on the budget. We're short again this year with budget. Our budget was cut, I think, $233,000. So we lost a lot of positions.
Wow.
So again, it's the politics of DCPS.
Yeah. Man.
Kids first, right?
Kids first, but not really.
Right.
Kids first if our budget can help it.
Right.
Wow. Somebody else, come on, jump in this. I got one more question after this.
For me, it's turning it off, finding the balance. I'm an early morning person, so I'm prepping for school early.
Yeah.
And then I try to always make myself available for students. I finally learned to stop giving out my cell phone number. But the whole turning it off, I don't turn it off well. Yeah, because I'm a relationship person. I believe in authentic relationships with my students. Yeah. So that's the challenge. One of the challenges. Of course, there's always grade in those papers. We can go back to that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Yeah.
For me,
all right, G. Peters,
I think similar to Mrs. Dennis, I have a boundaries problem. I think that
you be giving out your cell too.
What you say?
You giving out your cell phone number too?
Oh, everybody got my cell. Everybody. Yeah. But it's hard for me to exist outside of Miss Dickerson, G. Peters. Wherever I go, I talk about it, I live it, I breathe it, and I married someone who does the same thing and we don't let each other get outside of G.E. Peters, to the point where a lot of my friends are like, we're not talking about G.E. Peters today. But it's like, I don't know where G.E. Peters stops and I begin. It's getting worse the longer I'm here. But I mean, I worked it out in counseling. She was trying to talk me through putting up boundaries. You are not responsible for the success and failure of G.E. Peters.
Yes.
You are not responsible for the success and failure of individual students. This is not your cross to carry.
I've told you that before too.
You have told me that.
I'll send you the bill.
It's something about Miss King understands it too, because we all, and I said that this morning, Miss King, we're in it. It's in our blood. This is this is our school. So, and it's not about the money. So when something happens or someone says something, it's a personal attack.
You in deep.
We're in deep. Yep. When someone leaves, or when someone, it feels like a betrayal. It feels like a personal attack. It feels all of those things. And that may not be healthy.
Yeah. Wow. Boundaries. Trauma. Miss King.
I agree. And then also, I feel like when I feel like I have a student that I can't help in a certain aspect of their life, like, you know, we got kids going through stuff, and you know, I'm big on relationships. Like Dr. Kesslin, they're going through stuff in their personal life that I know of, like, you know, anything. Parents sick, they're going through somebody, a family member dying or something like that. And I want to take it away from them, but I can't. And I see how it affects them, you know, going throughout the day. And you know, these are my babies, these are my kids. I really own them. Like these, I call them my kids because they all have that special place.
So Darnell Thomas said while he was teaching at Montgomery College many years ago, one of his students said she was planning to commit suicide after class that night, but he allowed her a safe place for 45 minutes. And a couple of months later, this young lady became a baptized member of Emmanuel-Brinklow. So folk are going through it, man. Let me end with this. Last question of the night, I promise. And then I'm gonna let y'all go because y'all been teaching all day. And Miss Dickerson, she look like she about to give up the ghost right now. Have you, just real quick, have you ever felt like quitting? And if so, why you still teaching?
Oh, absolutely.
Every year.
You know, absolutely.
If you don't think about that at least once a week, are you really teaching?
Right.
There was one year, all of us were like, we're not coming back. Like there was one year, we all were interviewing. Like we were like, I'm done. Wow. I'm done.
But what keeps me coming back is I know nothing of that I would do would make me as happy as I am teaching. I teach because I love it. One of the students actually asked me, and I said, if I didn't love teaching, I wouldn't teach. If I didn't love what I do, there's no way.
Wow.
Yeah. So I broke my foot yesterday breaking up a fight. And
that's how you broke it.
That's how I broke my foot. And so I quit on the spot yesterday, but I'm going back. I'll be back tomorrow with my boot. But I do it because we all have a passion for it. Like we don't, like you said, we don't do it for the money. We do it for the passion. And we do it for the love. Like you have to have that to be an educator. So I'll be back tomorrow with my boot on, with my broken foot.
Wow.
Mercy.
She said, you come away educating with scars. She said, I ain't new to this. I'm true to it.
Mercy.
Man, Doc Kesslin, what kept you? You ever felt like quitting?
So I am right now with an organization that accredits programs.
Okay.
So for the last year, I have been out of the classroom and I miss it. I miss the energy of the classroom. So I wouldn't say I quit because in my own business, I teach. Teaching happens not just in the classroom, but I miss. Sure. Did I tell you that, Ms. Dickerson? I actually miss it. I miss it. She told me not to leave, but so now I'm creating my own classrooms.
It's in you.
It's in me. 20 years. It's in me.
Those of you that are watching tonight and going to watch the the rebroadcast, you are looking at 4 amazing, talented, intelligent, passionate women. They in this thing deep, y'all. And man, whoever is in front of you guys, man, based on your passion, is going to be incredibly blessed because when you can do a job and you can do it and you'll say, man, I'll do it even if they wasn't paying me. That's when you know you in deep and you are, it's almost like you're addicted to it. I got to be in front of somebody to teach them and help educate them and help push them to a level of greatness. So, man, thank you all so much for coming on tonight. I know you guys are preparing to stand in front of kids tomorrow. Miss Walden she ain't gonna be standing. She's gonna be sitting with the boot on. And You know, I'm gonna pray now because Ms. Dickinson look like if I talk more, she's gonna be off to sleep, but she preparing. But because it's Teachers Appreciation Week, is it next week? You said? Because it's next week, man, I just want to pray a prayer of grace and blessing on you guys because of how much you pour out. And man, you have blessed students that it's going to be either years or in eternity when you finally know how much you really blessed them and poured into their life. So, Father, in Jesus' name, I bless Ms. Dickerson. I pray that you would continue to give her innovation and uncanny ways to teach ELA and to teach history, God. Help these Black babies to know where they come from and not be ashamed to be Black. Pour into her resilience and passion. Continue to bless Miss King as a special way, and as she teach these difficult concepts of mathematics and about your word. Give her zeal and passion in the classroom, God, that students may come into a better knowledge of you because of what she's teaching. God bless Miss Walden. Heal her foot in the name of Jesus as she was breaking up a fight, God. Cover her as she goes into places and spaces, God, to stand in front of these young minds, to be able to give them what they need, those young people that are dealing with crises and challenges and the moments when she feels overwhelmed. Continue to be the lift of her head and cover her, God. We touch and agree for these parents who have lost their babies this year due to gun violence, God. Touch these parents and students and educators who have had to experience it, God. And bless Dr. Kessler as she continues to shape the minds of college students that she can speak life into those that just don't even know why they're in college, God. They just felt like it was the next step. But pray, God, that she would say something or do something that might encourage them to press on a little longer. Bless them financially, God. I pray abundance and I pray increase that come into their life because of what they've poured out. And God, continue to give them what they stand in need of. In Jesus' name, amen. Man, thank y'all for rocking with us tonight. Miss Dickerson, Miss King, Doc Kessler, Miss Walden, man, y'all are amazing. Don't forget, this coming Sabbath, we want to see you 10:30. Creative Arts from Power Forge Academy is going to be with us at 10:50, and then the choir with us during our worship experience. And our GE Peters, baby, it's Education Day. It's going down like 4 flat tires. Meet us there at Emmanuel-Brinklow, and I know God is going to bless you real good. God bless you until we meet again. Take care.